What's clear is that the Democrats' actions account to an intentional sabotage of our country and our people by shutting down our government. This madness must end.
Well, that's Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer on why most Senate Democrats are refusing to vote for the budget extension, and White House Press Secretary, of course, Caroline Leavitt, on the costs of that decision. We have got senators from both parties with us today. We'll talk to Democrat Peter Welch from Vermont in just a moment. But first, we go to Republican Senator Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma. Sir, thanks for being with us. Nate Silver argued this week that of all the sort of characters present throughout the narrative about the shutdown, Chuck Schumer is the one who is taking the most heat. He also said that the longer this shutdown goes on, the more it's going to hurt him and give a leg up to some of the firebrands to the left of him in the party, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Absolutely. Well, this is what happens when you have a career politician in office. Keep in mind, in 1996, when he was a congressman, and I was still in high school, which was, 3 decades ago, the career politician Chucky Schumer went to the floor and said that we incentivize illegals coming to the United States illegally when we give them benefits. That's exactly what they're doing right now. I mean, the sound clip you just said is that we're trying to ensure health care for all Americans. Well, I agree with that. Let's make sure Americans have health care. It's the illegals that he's trying to reinstate health care for, which is what the One Big Beautiful Bill cut out. Keep in mind, he's wanting to add $1.5 trillion back into taxpayer spending for 4 weeks for the government to be open. And what that does is it reinstates the illegals, the 20 million illegals that the Biden administration allowed to come in illegally. And when he left office, what Biden did was a sleight of hand by basically paroling 98% of the individuals, which made them eligible for Medicaid benefits. And so what One Big Beautiful Bill is cut out the waste, fraud, and abuse, and that's what Schumer's trying to reinstall. Why? Because he's got to show his base that he's fighting, but yet he doesn't believe it because he's voted for a clean CR 13 times. And this exact CR, this exact same CR with the language and everything. By the way, CR for our listeners is continuing resolution, meaning keep government funded and operating the way that it is. He voted for this same piece of legislation 4 other times, but now he won't do it because he's afraid AOC will primary him not in 2026, but in 2028.
This caught my eye, sir. Politico wrote this week, the headline is Thune warns Democrats about Russ' vote. We don't control what he's going to do. Senate Majority Leader John Thune isn't endorsing the slash and burn campaign White House Budget Director Russ Vought has planned for the federal government during the pending shutdown. But he says Democrats have no one to blame for it but themselves. I mean, the Senate Majority Leader there putting real daylight between himself, Senate Republicans, and the White House and the OMB's plans to use this as an opportunity to slash more of the federal workforce.
Well, keep in mind, there's a clear separation of power between the executive branch and the legislative branch. But what happens during a shutdown, which Chuck Schumer has led us into, so we're in the Chuck Schumer shutdown, the very thing that they're fighting against is exactly what they're doing. They're fighting against the Trump administration, but when they led us to a shutdown because of Chuck Schumer's leadership, they give that authority that should be inside the legislative branch to the executive branch, because during the shutdown, the President of the United States has unilateral authority to deem agencies essential and non-essential, and all the employees inside those agencies essential and non-essential. And so when you're trying to shrink the size of government, which is what President Trump ran on because he wants to get our budget under control and get people out of the federal government that's wasting taxpayer dollars, he's allowed Chuck Schumer's allowed them to do the exact same thing. And yet the craziness that you find in the Democrat Party can't even admit that. They're literally lying to the American people when they say they're fighting for them, but yet they gave all the power to the executive branch to make the unilateral decisions they need to, which, by the way, they should be. Underneath the Biden administration, most agencies grew by over 100%. So to cut 10% of the employees out is not an issue at all. We have plenty of room to be able to still be effective and efficient with all of our agencies, but without having a bloated federal employee government.
So there's the federal workforce cuts that the White House wants to move forward with during the shutdown. There are also these federal funding freezes targeting Democratic cities underway. Here's Democratic Senator Dick Durbin on that. I want to get your response.
President Donald Trump wants to punish states like Illinois and the people who live there because they didn't vote for him in the last election. This is petty, it's unfair, it's wrong.
What do you say, sir?
It's interesting how short memory Dick Durbin and the Democrats have, because it wasn't just but 4 years ago that the Keystone Pipeline was cut too. And by the way, they went right through red states. The entire distance of it went through red states. All the energy projects for pipelines and for oil and gas infrastructure was also cut underneath the Biden administration. But they want to forget about that and not talk about what the Biden administration did. They just want to talk about what Trump is doing because their hatred towards President Trump. But what we know was happening in the administration is the Trump administration is working for the entire economy, trying to bring the entire economy up, making sure that we're not picking winners and losers, but the free market makes those decisions. And so I support what the President Trump is doing, but Dick Durbin, I'd say maybe you should look back 3 or 4 years ago and see what the Biden administration was doing before you go out and call someone out on this stuff.
Before I let you go, you serve on the all-powerful SASC, the Senate Armed Services Committee. What are service members telling you this week about the Secretary of War's gathering and remarks that he made earlier in the week about the new policies?
Well, I have a lot of friends that get the opportunity to serve this great country, and all of them said their chest was pumping with pride. They loved the idea that Pete Hegseth stood up there, as they said, and became a leader to all the warfighters that he had promised to do by holding the generals accountable, saying, look, if I'm making you comfortable by talking about the warfighters and lethality, making sure that our standards are the same for everyone, regardless of their gender, man or woman, if they're going to have a certain job, a certain MOS, that they all have to meet the same standards. If they're talking about holding the generals accountable and saying, look, if you want your soldiers to be fit, then you need to set the example by being fit yourself. I'll tell you, all the service members loved it. They loved the idea that you have a Secretary of War that was sitting up there and putting them first rather than putting the guys with stars on their shoulders. I tell you what, I sent Secretary Hegseth a message too, and after I heard the speech, and I said, sir, my chest is pumping with pride. Thank you for standing up and taking a strong, clear, and decisive position on where the Secretary of War should be and the Department of War is going.
Senator, thank you for taking time with us today. We appreciate hearing from you always. Hope to see you and your colleagues back here.